Did you know there's actually a right way to grieve a breakup? Most people don't even realize they're grieving. They call it heartbreak. They call it sadness, confusion, even madness. But underneath the chaos, what they're actually navigating is grief, raw, real, and relentless. And here's the part no one tells you. If you don't grieve properly, you don't heal. You just bury the pain so deep it poisons everything that comes after. So let me ask you something. Have you ever left a relationship and still felt haunted months, even years later, not by the person, but by a version of yourself that you lost along the way? Because if you're nodding right now, if you've ever looked at your reflection and thought, I don't recognize this person anymore, then this conversation, this journey we're about to take, it's for you. Breakups are brutal. They're small funerals held in private, without eulogies, without closure, without anyone sending flowers. And somehow you're expected to get up, go to work, smile at the barista, scroll past your ex on social media, and pretend your entire internal world hasn't just imploded. But what if there was a roadmap? What if heartbreak had a blueprint, a set of emotional mile markers you could follow, not to rush the healing, but to finally make sense of it? Because here's the truth, there is a pattern to the chaos. It's not clean, it's not linear, but it exists. It's the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And when we apply them to breakups, they stop being abstract psychology and start becoming survival tools. So let's begin where most people do: denial. That moment when the breakup still feels like a bad dream. You wake up expecting a good morning text. You instinctively reach for your phone, check your notifications. Your mind is still conditioned to their presence everywhere. Their name, their scent, the sound of their laugh, it lingers like smoke after a fire. You tell yourself, maybe we just need space. Maybe this isn't really over. Maybe they'll come back. This stage isn't weakness. It's biology. It's your brain's defense mechanism trying to shield you from pain that would otherwise hit you like a freight train. You're not delusional. You're just human. And part of being human is needing time to catch up emotionally to what your mind already knows. But denial can be seductive. It can trap you in memories, in photos you refuse to delete, in texts you reread 100 times hoping to find a hidden message, a clue that maybe they didn't mean it, maybe they still care. And then it hits. Suddenly you're angry, not just annoyed, furious. At them, at yourself, at the universe for letting this happen. You remember every slight, every moment they made you feel small, every promise they broke. Your love story starts to look less like a fairy tale and more like a lie you told yourself. You ask, how could they do this to me? Why wasn't I enough? And beneath every word, there's a scream. I didn't deserve this. That's anger, stage 2. And it's a fire that, when controlled, can purify. But if you let it burn unchecked, it turns into bitterness. You lash out or you turn inward, blaming yourself, questioning your worth. This is where many people sabotage their healing. They start comparing themselves to whoever came after. They stalk Instagram accounts. They spiral. So what's the key here? Let yourself feel the anger. Don't suppress it. Don't rush past it in an attempt to be the bigger person. Being graceful doesn't mean denying your humanity. Journal it. Talk it out. Scream into a pillow if you have to, but own it. Because repressed anger doesn't disappear. It mutates into shame, and shame is the real poison. And then comes the whisper, the quiet desperation that settles in your chest when the anger fades and all you want is for the pain to stop. Bargaining. If I just reach out and say I'm sorry, maybe they'll come back. If I change, maybe we can fix this. If I pretend I'm okay, maybe they'll miss me and realize what they lost. This is the most vulnerable stage of grief. Because here, you're not bargaining with your ex. You're bargaining with your own pain. You're trying to negotiate reality. You want to undo what's already been done, rewrite the ending, beg the universe for a different version of the story. You might even pray, just one more chance. I'll do anything. It's not pathetic. It's sacred. It's the part of your soul that still believes in love fighting to stay alive. But here's the wisdom you need to hear right now. Love doesn't beg. Real love doesn't require you to abandon yourself. And the version of you that's willing to shrink, to twist, to perform in order to be chosen, that's not you. That's your wound. Because bargaining is where self-respect is tested. It asks, how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice for the illusion of connection? And for many, the answer is too much. Then comes the crash, depression, no more denial, no more anger, no more bargaining, just emptiness. The mornings feel heavy. Music hurts. Silence hurts more. Your appetite disappears, or maybe you eat just to fill the void. You isolate. You replay everything. You wonder if love is even real. And this is the valley, the darkest part of the journey. But hear me clearly now. This is not the end. This is the womb of transformation, because in this stillness, something begins to stir. It's fragile at first. Maybe it's a laugh that surprises you, a moment of peace, a night you sleep through without dreaming about them, a realization that you haven't thought about them in an hour, and then two, and then an entire day. This is where acceptance begins to grow. Not because you've stopped loving them, not because it didn't matter, but because you finally understand that your life continues without them. You can miss someone and still choose yourself. You can honor the love without reopening the wound. You can let go without erasing what it meant. Acceptance is not forgetting. It's forgiving the version of you who thought you couldn't live without them. It's reclaiming your power, your voice, your identity. It's looking in the mirror and seeing someone not broken, but reborn. But let's be honest, grief isn't a checklist. You don't graduate from stage to stage like a school syllabus. You can bounce from anger back to denial, from bargaining to depression, all in the same day. Healing isn't linear. It's a spiral, And every loop brings you deeper into yourself. So the real question isn't, what stage am I in? The real question is, am I facing my grief or running from it? Because the only way out is through, and the truth is grief is not your enemy, it's your guide. It breaks you down, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you wiser, softer, stronger. In the next part of this journey, we'll go deeper into the practices that truly help you process the pain, not just numb it, not just bury it under distractions, but confront it with courage, with honesty, with heart. Because grieving isn't just about letting go of someone else. It's about finally coming home to yourself. What if I told you that grief, this raw, aching storm inside of you, isn't the enemy? What if it's the doorway? See, the problem isn't that you're hurting. The problem is no one ever taught you how to hurt in a way that heals you. They tell you to move on, stay strong, don't cry over someone who left. But strength isn't denial. Real strength is when you face your pain, hold space for it, and say, you're allowed to be here, but you're not allowed to define me. And that's where we begin this next part of our journey. Learning how to cope. Not to distract, not to suppress, but to process. Let's talk about journaling. This isn't just a self-help cliche. Writing is a mirror to the soul. It's the only place where you don't have to wear a mask, where you can say the things you'd never say out loud, where you don't have to be polite or rational or healed. You can be messy, angry, desperate, lost, and in that mess, you begin to uncover truths. Try this every night. Write a letter to your ex that you never send. Say everything, not just the sweet words. Say the ugly, the bitter, the real. And then write a second letter to yourself, not the broken version, not the heartbroken shell, but the version of you who will survive this, the one who's on the other side. What would she tell you? What does she know that you don't yet see? You'll be stunned at what pours out. Now let's talk about people. You don't have to do this alone. Grief tricks us into isolation. It whispers, no one understands. You're too much. Just stay quiet. But the truth, you are not a burden. And vulnerability is not weakness. It's your bridge back to connection. Call that one friend you trust, the one who doesn't just give advice, but actually listens. The one who says, I've got you, not I told you so. Let them hold space for you. And if no one in your life can hold that space right now, look elsewhere. Find a therapist. Join a support group. Read breakup stories and realize this, your pain is real, but it is also universal. And that universality, it's oddly comforting, because when you know others have survived this exact H, you begin to believe that maybe you will too. But there's something else we often overlook during grief: the body. You're not just mourning in your mind, you're mourning in your nervous system. Your sleep changes, your appetite is off, your chest feels tight, you're jumpy, anxious, sluggish. This isn't imagined. This is your biology screaming something is wrong. So listen to it. Move your body, not to lose weight or look good, but to release. walk, dance, stretch, cry while running if you have to. Grief lives in the body, and movement is how you let it out. Feed yourself, nutritionally and emotionally. You might not feel like eating, but remember, you are not starving for food. You are starving for nourishment, and that includes your soul. So take baths, light candles, wear soft clothes, make your room a sanctuary, not a prison. These things seem small, but they signal to your brain, I matter. I am worth caring for. Because when you show up for yourself, especially in grief, you begin the most radical healing of all: self-respect. Here's something no one says enough. You can be heartbroken and still love yourself at the same time. That's the turning point. When you stop asking, how do I get them back? And start asking, how do I get me back? You start to reclaim your mornings. Maybe the first few are hard, but one morning you'll wake up and not reach for your phone. You'll sit quietly with a cup of tea. You'll breathe. You'll realize the silence isn't so scary anymore. That's progress. And in that silence, you'll begin the next step of the journey: reframing. This is where everything changes, because grief is not just pain, it's perspective. It's your chance to ask, what was the lesson here? Not, why did this happen to me? But, why did this happen to me? For me. You begin to see that maybe this breakup shattered a version of you that was never whole. That maybe you tolerated things you shouldn't have. That maybe you ignored your intuition. That maybe you confused love with familiarity, or attention with affection, or chaos with passion. And now you get to choose differently. This is where heartbreak becomes holy, where grief becomes growth. You stop idealizing them. You stop demonizing them too. You just see them as a human being who taught you something about yourself. Maybe they taught you what you don't want. Maybe they showed you where your boundaries were too loose. Maybe they exposed wounds you didn't even know you had. And that is the gift. You start redefining your story, not as the girl who was left or the one who wasn't enough, but as the woman who found herself in the wreckage. You start exploring again, picking up old hobbies, traveling, painting, singing, going to events you would have skipped before. You say yes to life, not to impress anyone, but because you deserve a full life. You begin to redefine yourself. And that version of you, the one rising from the ashes, is magnetic, not because she's perfect, but because she's real. She doesn't chase, she doesn't cling, she doesn't settle. She knows now healing isn't about forgetting them, it's about remembering you. But before you can step fully into that power, there's still one more transformation waiting. You must learn how to build resilience. And that's where we're headed next. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to embrace impermanence, how to cultivate deep self-compassion, and how to turn your grief into wisdom. Because pain doesn't leave you empty. If you're willing, it can leave you wiser than ever before. And when you reach that place, love will find you again. But this time, you'll be ready for it. Grief doesn't end. It transforms. That's the secret no one tells you. You don't wake up one day and say, "It's over. I'm healed." What actually happens is subtler and more profound. You start laughing again, and your laugh sounds different, fuller, wiser. You start looking in the mirror, and instead of seeing who left or what broke, you see you. Raw, radiant, unapologetically whole. But how do you get there? How do you become someone who doesn't just survive heartbreak, but transcends it? It starts with embracing impermanence. Everything in life is temporary. Every emotion, every relationship, every chapter. And that doesn't mean it wasn't real. It means it was precious. Grief exists because something mattered. Something beautiful once lived. You loved, you gave, you dreamed, and it ended. That's not failure. That's life. The ancient Stoics had a practice called memento mori. Remember, you must die. It wasn't morbid, it was grounding. A reminder that everything changes, everything fades. And that's exactly why we must cherish every moment while we have it. Your heartbreak is a testament to your capacity to love deeply. Don't let that harden you. Let it humble you. Let it remind you that love isn't a guarantee, it's a gift. And you are worthy of giving and receiving it again. But next time, you'll bring a deeper presence, a fuller self, a wiser heart. And to carry that forward, you must learn self-compassion. Not the kind that just says, "I'm doing okay," but the kind that looks at your broken moments and whispers, even here, "I am worthy." When the tears come back months later, because they will, you won't shame yourself. You'll say, "Of course I still feel. Of course this mattered." And you'll let it pass like weather, not a verdict. Self-compassion means speaking to yourself the way you would to a best friend. You don't rush her. You don't minimize her pain. You hold her. You honor her. You remind her she is enough, especially when she feels like she isn't. And here's the deeper truth. The greatest relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. So stop trying to become someone they would want. Start becoming someone you respect. Read books. Take long walks without headphones. Cook for yourself like you would for someone you adore. Get dressed just to feel beautiful, not to be seen. Celebrate small wins. Keep promises to yourself. That's how you rebuild trust, not with others, but within. Because when you trust yourself again, something incredible happens. You stop being afraid of being alone. You stop settling. You stop confusing attachment with love. And you begin to see love for what it truly is, a choice, not a need. So many people jump from one relationship to another, chasing connection to fill the void they refuse to face. But you've stared into the void. You've sat with your grief. And that's why when love comes next, it will be different. Because now you bring a full cup. Now you don't choose from fear, but from wholeness. But before you reach that place, there's one more trial life will give you. You'll have to face the aftermath, the post-breakup social landmine, running into your ex, seeing their name pop up on your feed, getting a text out of nowhere, "Hey, just checking in." And here's what you need to remember. Closure is not a conversation. Closure is a decision. You don't owe them another explanation. You don't need one from them. You don't need to be friends to prove you're healed. Sometimes the most powerful form of love is distance. Sometimes the healthiest response is silence. And you don't need to win the breakup either. You don't need to look happy online just to prove something. Let go of the performance. True healing is quiet. It happens in the small moments no one sees. When you choose peace over reaction. When you see them and don't feel the urge to reach out. When you no longer fantasize about the apology they'll never give. That's power. And it grows even more when you learn to set boundaries, not walls. Boundaries. You don't let them in just because they're familiar. You protect your peace. You choose who gets access to your energy. You recognize that loving someone doesn't mean they're good for you. And just because the relationship ended doesn't mean the lesson did. Boundaries teach the world how to treat you, but more importantly, they teach you how to honor yourself. And that is what healing looks like. It's not a straight line. It's a spiral. You'll circle back sometimes. You'll have moments of grief even when you thought you were done. That's okay. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to remember without breaking. It means taking the scar and saying, "This is part of me now, and I love her anyway." It means waking up one day and realizing, I'm not just over them, I'm back to me. And from that place, that power, you move forward. You laugh louder. You love smarter. You let people in without losing yourself. You take the risk of love again. Not because you need saving, but because you have so much to give. And if love doesn't come right away, you're still whole. Because here's what you've learned, D. You can hold your own hand when it shakes. You can wipe your own tears. You can rebuild a shattered heart from the ground up. And the woman who's done that, she's unstoppable. So, is there a right way to grieve a breakup? Yes. And here it is, you grieve with intention. You honor every emotion. You face the pain instead of numbing it. You let it teach you, transform you, and finally, free you. Not back into who you were, but into who you were always meant to become. And if you're still in it right now, if you're listening to this through tears, if your chest still aches and your mind still replays the past on a loop, just remember this. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of the part where you rise. And when you do, you won't just be healed. You'll be reborn.